This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. 5 years ago, Botswana passed the Medicines and Related Substances Act, which subsequently led to the establishment of the Botswana Medicines Regulatory Authority, BOMRA. The function of this authority, as stipulated in the Act, are to ensure that all medicines and related substances, such as we find here in this Botswana warehouse, are registered, and that those manufactured in and exported from Botswana conform to the established criteria of quality, safety, and efficacy. Now that office space has been found and the authority has been staffed, we as First Issues found it necessary to visit the new body and go and inquire as to what changes all stakeholders involved in the manufacturing, sale and use of medicines and related substances should come to expect with the implementation of this, by all intents and purposes, new law. Will this affect the way we purchase medicines when ill? You may have already seen that some medicines that we used to purchase over the counter, such as eye drops and some painkillers, are not as readily available. And that doctors are no longer selling medicines directly, but instead write prescriptions for use at pharmacies. How will the establishment of BOMRA affect budding entrepreneurs in the industries of cosmetics and alternative therapies? What of farmers and the way they currently inoculate and care for their livestock? We took our questions to the authority for further clarification.
We are going to be building a lot of capacity. Basically, we have 4 main processes. There is a product evaluation and registration of medicines as they come into the country. There is also the inspection and licensing of premises in Botswana as they be manufacturing, including pharmacies, including hospitals, any place where these medicines are imported into and handled or stored and distributed or dispensed to the patients in Botswana. There's also laboratory services, and the function of the lab basically is to ensure that the quality side of medicines is ensured. And that means as we import these medicines, we can carry out quality tests on the medicines, on equipment. Another aspect of this is it's called post-marketing surveillance. That is actually about pharmacovigilance. It's a bit of a complex term to use, but it actually means that after we authorize importers to distribute medicines in Botswana, we are able to follow up and monitor all the impacts of these medicines, including any adverse reactions that patients experience as a result of using medicines. Whether you take a medicine and experience a severe headache, these are some of the reactions we're going to be monitoring to ensure that these medicines are doing their proper job and that the patients are benefiting as they should be. The area of pharmacovigilance is broad. It encompasses the safety aspects of medicines. And we're going to, it's an exciting area for us because we're going to educate Botswana about what they can get as a result of taking medicines to cure disease. Because some of the medicines, yes, may actually work, but may also have side effects, which they need to understand and report back to the authority for a further investigation.
How different is this to the way things are currently being done?
Right now, there is no means by which the public in general are able to report the reactions or negative reactions they're getting from using different kinds of medicines. So the difference here is that we will engage with the public and educate them.
We will no longer be trusting evaluations from international bodies or external bodies. We will trust our own reviews of different medicines?
Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up. This actually means that as a country, we are going to be building capacity and technical expertise in the areas of evaluating these medicines on our own and having a registration book for them. That has been going on, but we need to strengthen those skills. But having said that, it doesn't dissociate us from collaborating with other international bodies. There is the American Food and Drugs Administration. There is a World Health Organization. We are interconnected in a way. We collaborate and we share databases. That means what has been approved in those countries, we can also use that information to enhance or to speed up approvals of certain medicines and medical devices in Botswana.
With the existence of BOMRA, does that mean those who have been importing medications will have to now do things a little differently?
There's nothing really different about the importation of medicines that's going to take place. All that we are going to do is to ensure that, in particular, to ensure that only medicine that we found in Botswana have been properly imported. We are going to have a unit called Export-Import Control, and that the function of that unit will be ensure that anybody who imports medicine in the country has got a proper payment. But also that unit has got to work together with the border control officers to ensure that they are part of the process of ensuring that only medicines are covered in that permit are imported. So there's going to be a bit of work that we have to do as an authority to ensure that the border controls are effective and that they're working. And part of this, of course, is to ensure that any illicit substances are not imported into Botswana. The import-export control unit is going to be working very closely with our legal department. Our legal department has got its own law enforcement officers who are going to be going around to see that everybody complies with the Act and complies with the law. Where there is a suspicious activity, we will link up with other organizations within the country to see how we can further investigate and put right practices which are not lawful.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. Over the past few weeks, we have been educated as to the unique role played by the National Business Conference that takes place every 2 years in Francistown and is hosted by Business Botswana in the development of Botswana's economic landscape. This year, leaders from government and from the private sector are set to meet to discuss how to grow Botswana from its middle-income status into a high-income country. Dichaba Molobe is back on the program to enlighten us as to which prominent minds will be guiding this very necessary conversation.
We have a number of speakers, international, local, as well as Botswana in the diaspora. In other words, Botswana who have made it out there. And the reason why we are bringing in international speakers is for them to share their experiences with us. And these are speakers from countries that we consider to be high income. One of them is coming from Switzerland. As you know, Switzerland is a very successful country, very advanced technology, financial services. So we are bringing in a guy called Matthew Blaise, who is the head of the Swiss Confederation of Employers based in Geneva, to come and talk to us about the lessons that we can pick from their experience and what it is that they do to maintain their status as a high-income country, the reforms that they always put in place. So that's why we are bringing in, and we are very excited that Matthew Blaise has agreed to come and speak. You know, he's a very senior executive in the Confederation of Employers. We're also having a team of speakers from Estonia, And the reason why they are coming to speak, this was coincidental. They were coming here on a trade mission, but we have also asked them to speak at the conference because Estonia, as you might be aware, it's one of the top performing countries in terms of doing business reforms. Yeah, they are very, very advanced. They get things done. So what we want them to do is to tell us what we have to do to get things done.
What will the delegates, do you think, especially the international ones, be getting out of participating in such an event?
The delegates will get a chance. I think for them it's an opportunity to meet Botswana because these are very senior leaders. It's a good opportunity for them to network and also explore opportunities for trade links as well as investment. So we see them coming in here not only to speak, but also to get a feel of what it is like to do business in Botswana. And we look forward to that. After exploration, they will come back and do real investment. That's our expectation. And we're excited about this, with only 3 weeks to go.
Definitely something to be excited about. And of course, this won't just be a talk shop. This won't just be exciting conversations. What does Botswana stand to gain from their participation?
From the participation of
all the speakers and attendees at this year's NBC.
We are excited by the fact that none other than the president, the head of state, is also not only going to speak and go away, he's going to speak and also sit down for a Q&A with delegates so that they get to understand what his vision is. And then from that, we think there's going to be high-level commitment at the head of state down the ranks. So this for us, I think, it's different.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world. Because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. As in this portion of our program, we continue to educate you, our viewers, on cardiovascular diseases. That is, the illnesses that affect the circulatory system, comprised of the heart and blood vessels. We do this because they have been identified as the leading cause of death in the developed and the developing world, and therefore pose a real and significant threat to the global economy. It is a major risk factor because persistently high blood pressure puts a strain on your heart and your blood vessels, and therefore can result in complications in almost any part of the human body. Strokes in particular are caused by the deadly rupture of vessels in the brain. What is most troubling is that a number of cardiovascular diseases are silent killers, calling for extra vigilance in their identification and in their management. We hope that retired businesswoman Sophia Spire's story helps you better identify the symptoms of a stroke in future and hopefully save someone's life.
It was very calming, but also very sort of worrying and frightening at the same time. So I'd had a really easy morning. I'm normally one of these people that bills roam every day, and I decided, no, I'm feeling a bit offish. I'm going to take the day easy. And I sat down at about 11 o'clock in the morning, made myself a cup of coffee and a piece of toast, which I never do. And while I was sitting down, all of a sudden I got this feeling from my head down, all the way down the left-hand side. It felt like a train was running through my veins. And I thought, oh, okay, but I was already now in the third and, you know, a little bit sort of detached. And I thought, oh, when it gets to my thigh, I'm going to see my skin do this. That's how, you know, it felt within the body. So I thought I'd actually had a blood clot. So it went all the way down the left-hand side, came back up, and then it sort of seemed to disappear. And I just thought, oh, blow, I've had a stroke or a TIA, I wasn't sure which, and that I've now got this huge blood clot now sitting in the body. But I was very calm, so I immediately thought, okay, what are the things you do when you have a stroke? So I laughed out loud, put my hands out, turned them over, you know, shook my, moved my legs up and down, and I thought, okay, well, I'm fine. I'm not sort of paralyzed or anything like that. So I sat and finished my cup of coffee. I wouldn't recommend that anybody ever does that. Get yourself to a medical person, ideally a hospital, immediately, and get help. You don't want to get in a car because you don't know what's going to happen, or you don't want to get in a taxi or whatever. Get someone to go with you and get yourself to a medical facility. And what I didn't also understand is that it takes 24 hours for something to come out. In other words, you're going to feel very tired afterwards and you feel like you've hit a bit of a brick wall. But for example, the event or the power of the stroke or the power of the ischemic attack will only be shown within the 24-hour cycle. I mean, my tremor only actually came out 4 days later.
Are you aware of any risk factors that may have predisposed you to having a stroke?
In my family, there was always high blood pressure. My father had TIAs all the time over a period of about 10 or 15 years. And I remember as a child, one of my aunts passing away from a blood clot in the brain. And I had an uncle that had very high blood pressure, and he had a stroke and passed away immediately. So the awareness of that you must be fit, you must watch your blood pressure. If you're a person, and it doesn't matter whether you're young or old, it doesn't, you know, if you're not fit, then check your blood pressure once a week. Make sure it's not doing this. Keep it stable. Oxygen. If your brain isn't getting enough oxygen, it can also be an effect that a stroke is going to happen, or a TIA. I mean, they don't necessarily call them strokes these days. Apparently the newer word is event, the modern word.
So far it appears that this event has affected your life in a positive way, since you're taking better care of yourself. But have there been any negatives that have resulted from this?
Immediately after the stroke, for about 3 weeks, I was like laid down. I couldn't get my body moving properly. I was so tired. I would crawl out of bed at like 9, 10 in the morning. They also had me on a lot of pills, so that obviously to keep everything cool, calm and collected. Stress-wise, if I get stressed, I tend to get a bit jittery, and I feel that things are in my face. When I'm doing something, you know, like my hobby, painting or picture framing or whatever I'm doing, in fact, if I've had enough, I walk away. Where before I would turn around and say, oh, I've got to get this done, I've got to get this done, it's for a birthday present, I must get it done. Now I just walk away. And I've set my boundaries to make myself more controlled, that I don't put myself at risk. Because there are certain brackets that, you know, after an event, you have like a 3-month window that you might have another stroke. Then there's a 6-month window at a reduced risk, and then there's a year window at a reduced risk.
Sophie says the stroke has affected her memory, short-term and otherwise, as well as her motor skills, which has affected her hobby painting. She goes on to tell us the other ways in which the stroke has affected her work and family life.
Financially, it has an impact, because you've now got to go and have these tests done. And thank goodness for credit cards, because you need that credit card to be able to just sort of cope with your budget adjustments and things like that. Obviously, medical aids and things like that do cover you know, symptoms, but there's always a tariff gap. Emotionally, oh yeah, no, there's definitely an impact emotionally, because all of a sudden the whole family has changed in the fact that there has to be care or attention or a support structure. For example, you know, I'll say to my husband, okay, I'm going to be doing X, Y, or Z. If I, you know, and now I'll say, oh, I'm really not feeling too well. He needs to know, he must give me a buzz later if I'm on my own, just to check everything's still okay or whatever, while that adjustment was going on. He's taken other things on instead of me doing them. Not major things, but he's taken things on because he wants to keep my stress level down.
Finally, we asked our guest what major lesson from the entire experience she would like to share with our viewers.
When something like that happens and you feel something going through, they've diagnosed that you've had a stroke, but you must be aware that you need to keep yourself in a steady environment. You need to keep yourself fit. You need to make sure that you're not overweight. You need to look after yourself because it has huge, huge financial and huge social impacts on you and your family. I was lucky. I was very lucky. I've got a tremor in one arm. That's great. I have no problem with that. It reminds me every day that I was very lucky.
Welcome back to the show. Last week we were shown the value of adding shares to your investment portfolio. Tonight, therefore, as we conclude the program, we discuss the process of buying and selling shares.
The process of buying shares, which is done through a broker, is as follows. You'd go to a broker ordinarily, or you'd give them a call, or you send an email, then they'll give you an application form for you to enter all your personal details. And once you've entered those personal details in that application form, the broker would open what they call a trading account for you. At the same time, they would also give you a CSD form. That is a form issued by the Central Securities Depository of Botswana, where your shares will be held for you to complete. And once you've completed these two forms and you have a trading account and a CSD account, the broker would place an order for you as per your instructions to say, I want shares of company so and so for the value of this much, or I want so many shares for the value of this much. The broker would place that order, and it will be the responsibility of the broker to execute that buy order on your behalf. What the broker does is they look around in the market for availability of those shares, and then they transact. Once they've transacted, they'll notify you by sending you what they call a contract note. A contract note simply tells you or confirms that as a broker, I've bought shares of this company, and this is the number of shares that have been bought. This is the price at which the shares were bought. This is the total value of the shares, and a breakdown of the expenses that you have to pay.
This program was brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?